It's Hal Feldman, MiamiHal, and this is the MiamiHal Real Estate Show. We are going to have a ton of things to talk about today. This is the broker of Remax Advanced Realty. His name is Anthony Askowitz, one of the top brokers in all of the state of Florida.
That's what I hear.
That's what you hear. And we have him here. This is a show today about perspective. And there is so much craziness going on in the real estate world right now that I wanted to get your perspective on things, especially because Anthony just attended the REMAX National Convention. So you are filled with not only knowledge of what's going on here in Miami, but across the country and actually all of North America. The people came down from Canada.
Actually from the world, from the world. Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, thank you for being here. I know that you actually landed back here yesterday, right?
Technically, yeah, but I didn't get home till today.
Oh my goodness. That's anyway, REMAX convention is something that's held every year. Mm-hmm. It's not that a typical consumer would know about this. It is really an inside the industry convention so that people understand how real estate is happening, what tools to use, how to sell, how to, help people buy. So tell us what the big theme of convention was this year, because we already know what the theme is here. Sell it like hotcakes, because that's what's happening.
Yes. I think the convention taught us reminded us that we create relationships with our clients and our friends and family for business. So real estate agents going to a convention like this learn how to communicate with their clients. They learn new tech to help a home seller sell and buy. And as a broker, I learn what's going on in the world also. And then there's a huge amount of discussion about the future, where we're going, because people talk about, and I'm sure you hear this all the time, about recession, depression, or the market's going to burst. Have you heard that?
Oh, yes. I've been hearing that recently for sure, because we've had this huge upward pressure. And we've seen prices in varying areas, but at least 30% year on year.
Yes.
And so you look at 30% on a price increase on anything.
Right.
And you go, this just isn't real, right? What's the reality? And maybe this is the reality, right? So again, what did you learn at convention that might give us some perspective as to what to expect in pricing over the next 6 months, let's say?
Okay, so what their indication would be, and the difference between today and let's say a 2007, 2008, is a lot of the people who own a home now have a huge amount of equity. Back, a decade plus ago, people were taking out money. They were doing home equity lines, using it for different things. And so they really pushed their values of the house to the max. Well, today they have huge amount of equity. So if someone wanted to sell today, no problem whatsoever. So that's a huge differential between now, today,
and the last crash in 2008.
Exactly. Yeah. Also, a lot of the homes, which you've seen too, people are buying your listings cash.
They are. Where is this cash?
Where is this cash?
You don't know either, right?
No, I don't.
Okay, but
they seem to have it. Yes,
it's incredible. And I think that is one of the issues that we will eventually come to grips on, which is, typically a homeowner or a buyer rather is going to finance a portion of their home purchase. So there's always an appraisal. Correct. And typically appraisers are keeping a grounded view as to what values are. Mm-hmm. But when you have a large number of cash transactions happening in any market, where, hey, I like it, I got the money, I'll spend it, there's no checks and balance there.
No, there's not.
So it tends to push things to higher prices. And at some point, when does the reality check happen again? Or does it? I'm asking you as an open question.
I don't think they don't feel it's happening yet, or it's coming. Yeah. So for a seller who may be deciding whether to sell today or tomorrow, the question comes in, if you're going to buy, that house that you're going to buy is also increasing.
Right.
So you might as well, if you're going to sell now, you know what you're going to get, then you can go and buy. For as far as values in Miami, we are limited. If you go east, you hit the water.
If you go west, you hit wetlands.
Yes, you do. And if you go south, you're basically in the Keys. Yeah. And if you go north, you're in another county. So Miami is limited. And so if you have that, if you're waterfront or some land or lake, whatever you may have, there's only so much of it that you have. So because of that, there's a demand for it. And people are still coming. They're coming to Florida, Tennessee, and Texas. And all three
I hadn't
states.
heard Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
You learned that at convention, I
A
suppose.
little Rocky Top, Tennessee.
Okay.
Yes. And the reason for those three is all three states are, I think, 3 of 6. There may be 7 states that have no state income tax. So those 3 states are huge, highly in demand states. So it's not just Miami, but it's the entire state of Florida that sees an influx.
So I would be remiss if I didn't remind our audience that at any time during the show, please go onto your social media platform that you have in front of you, type in a question, and our producer will display that on the screen. We'd be glad to answer questions. But
Sure.
Very important for me is I did not get to go to convention. I had a few things in my life that were a little busy, and real estate is keeping me busy literally all day long and part of the night. So what were the big themes that you believe are great takeaways, really not for the agents, but for the buyers and sellers in a market like this? Because this was, I assume, a very different convention than prior.
Well, what was nice about it too is just the being next to someone without a mask on and near.
It's been a few years.
Doesn't mean you don't have to be careful, but
Sure.
I think that people felt really comfortable about being closer to each other. I think that as a theme goes, they once again to the market itself, that they anticipate that the market will continue to rise, is what they were discussing. And for more factors is not only people coming in, but people are having children and kids are coming of age and they're buying at an earlier age now. So they're starting, if they buy earlier, then you have to have more product, and we're not building enough to satisfy the needs of the next generation. And, the new generation, they are buying homes. So we have to look at those 20 and 30-year-olds now.
It's interesting to me to hear that, because I also hear through news and grapevine and all this that the generation today is struggling to save money, and they are literally living paycheck to paycheck. So where is this money coming from? And, we always talk about a scale in almost anything in life. Where's the balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And without a doubt, I don't think anybody will argue with me. We are out of balance and in a significant way. So what's going on here where people are still buying, therefore forcing the prices higher?
So one of the increases that we see is in 2 families living in the house. So like the parents, kids, parents, and their parents. So dual homes with 2 folks in it. So it allows the 2 parties to both buy a home. They buy it together and they live together. So if it's the parents and their children or what have you,
that makes sense.
Exactly.
Brother, sister with their own families?
That's maybe a far stretch, but I would be happy if my sister's listening. I'd be happy to live with you.
You got that covered now.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Off the screen, I'll tell you the truth.
Okay.
So basically, they're able to buy, and with that combined income and combined assets, and also with the average size home. The average size home 30 years ago was like about 15 to 1800. Now the average size home is 2200 and or larger. So that also could be accomplished by adding on, converting garages and what have you.
We have a related question that came in. When purchasing a home with a family member, whose name should be on it?
Well, I think it would depend. So I think the first answer would be if, let's say it was me buying with my kids. I have a homestead exemption in the state of Florida, and you'd want to maintain that. And that homestead exemption under my name would give me, since I've owned a home for 30 some odd years, I have a very low threshold for homestead exemption for taxes. And there's what's called portability. I could take it with me to my new house. So you would definitely want my name on it. I could add my kid's name on it also, which would be good. Also, God forbid I pass away, the house would be an easy transfer to my child or my partner in this case in the house. So I think both. I think I would put both people's name on it.
Yeah, it's interesting because the family dynamic can change, and some families are cooperative and do everything together.
Yes.
And some will do it for tax purposes and a number of other reasons, but there's always this little bit of tension between, hey, what happens if, and they don't want to have something to have inequity.
I think that's why there's a split plan. There's one party on one side and another party on the other. So split plans in the house. I think helps out with people getting together. And I think also some homes are built or have the ability to have add-ons or kitchens and stuff like that. So you could almost have two households.
Yeah.
Or even down in the Redland area, there's a lot of homes with guest houses and stuff like that. So
we're seeing, and we have cottages in Coral Gables
absolutely
and the surrounding areas from there too.
Yes.
There's a follow-on question. Would it hurt the child's credit?
Only if you don't pay your mortgage. So if you make your payments, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So I think if anything, it may actually boost their credit because they're actually buying something, and by living in it, that helps them on the long run, gives them something to an asset. Now, if the kid are buying it for the parents, that's a little bit different. So that does happen too. Sometimes parents will co-sign, or kids will co-sign for their parents, vice versa. And that's wonderful. And it certainly helps them get into a home. But if one party doesn't make the payment, yes, it hurts their credit.
And I think it's important for both of us to say, the reality is we're giving some general advice. For specific advice on this, find a CPA.
Yes.
Or an attorney.
Oh, yes.
We are real estate agents or brokers. That is what we do. That's where our expertise is. Right. Yes, we touch everything from inspections to insurance to everything. But if you want absolute advice, go to see a professional that specializes in that area and is licensed properly in that area. Right?
Exactly. It's sort of if someone asked me to help them buy a home in Tampa, it's just
not your thing.
It's not my thing.
Right.
Go to someone who knows what they're doing. So if you need a home in Miami, call Hal. That's the idea.
Yeah. And we've said this over and over again on my show. You need two things to be successful in real estate. The first one is a competent local agent. And the second thing is a personality match. And the personality match, a lot of times, is the deciding factor on that success. Because I have a ton of people that trust in me and what I can do, but some of them, we just don't communicate as easily and as completely as we should.
Right.
So always make sure whoever you're working with, you have that personality match and you communicate. It's almost like, well, it's not almost, you're on the same team. It is supposed to be a true partnership. As you go through a home sale or a home purchase, you should feel like you're on a team and that the team has equity with both sides working together at the same goal.
That's interesting that you brought that up, because also at convention, there was the discussion about, you know what, as an agent, sometimes you're not going to get that first offer in. But I think as an agent, you talk to the buyers and say, hey guys, we didn't get this one, but we're going to go get the next one. You have to be positive and energetic and figure out, well, you know what, sometimes if you may lose to a cash offer that 20,000 above, and you're going to lose. But if you know what you're doing and you talk it out, we can figure out how to make sure that maybe on offer number 2 that we get that one through.
So one of the hats that we end up wearing is a psychologist's hat. Okay. Because as you are aware, and most people that are out there in the market right now are certainly aware, even if you are a very well qualified buyer, any house that you go out to, you are not alone.
No.
And so in a more typical market, I say there's a 50-50 chance that you'll get the home, because typically you're the only one that has an offer in it at that particular time. And so it's you working with the seller to try to figure out where the middle ground is and get a deal done.
Right.
You have a 50-50 chance. Today, I will tell you that percentage is extremely low. I'll give you an example. 3 weeks ago, I had an open house expecting a lot of people there. Over 100 families came through my open house on Saturday and Sunday. So right there, you say to yourself, okay, over 100 families, let's call it 1% chance as you're walking in to see the house.
Sure.
Then if you put together an offer, you still have to negotiate with the seller. So you got about a 0.5% chance. So you went from 50% chance in a different market to today's market where you're 0.5% chance, even if you're extremely well qualified. That has got to be deflating if you do this over and over again. So one of the things I talk to all of my clients about is emotionally prepare yourself for the ride you're about to be on. If you get very lucky, and I'm going to do everything I can to help you be lucky, we're going to position ourselves the best. Maybe on the first try you get extremely lucky, or the second or third, but more than likely you're going to be in the market looking for a home for a while until you get just the right combination of magic, right?
This is amazing. And I have to give you credit. Your marketing and able to get that many people into a house really shows your power.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
But it also goes to another segue that they were talking about how 90 some odd % of all homes are, even now, more so than ever, their sellers are using licensed real estate agents to sell their homes. There are the iBuyer, which is 1%, which is probably fading out of existence. And then the remaining percentage, half of those are sold to family members internally. So there's only a few folks who are actually attempting it on their own. And even those folks end up not achieving what they would, not even close to what they would achieve with a competent agent.
Yeah.
So
agreed. One of the things that you start to bring up is exposure to the market.
Yes.
So right now, exposure to the market is going to yield you a lot of great results as a seller. And I have heard all kinds of stories over the years I've been doing real estate. I'm sure you can give one as well. I'll give you one that's happening right now. I have a family that is about to list a home.
Okay.
They are not living in that home, but dad lives next door.
Oh.
Okay. So they've been in the neighborhood, and this has been the family compound for a while. Sister is temporarily living in the house that's about to be sold. Brother owns it. So I've had conversations, and the sister wants to purchase the home.
Okay.
I said, this is great. I will do everything I can to help the family, because that's what a good real estate agent does. But I called the brother and spoke to him, and I said, listen, I don't care what you do, whatever you want to do, I will do for you.
Sure.
But my advice is, even though your sister wants to purchase this home, the best thing you can do for yourself is find out what the market bears for that property.
Correct.
Once you find out what the value is to the open market, if you want to do a special deal for your sister, great. Happy to help you. In fact, I'll do it at a discount because it's all family and I want to help you guys. But the most important thing is understanding, by using a real estate agent, you are exposing it to the true open market.
Yes.
When you do an iBuy, you do a for sale by owner, you are a sliver of the marketplace, and you are going to get taken advantage of.
Yep.
I believe that.
Oh.
Stories, anything that you can tell us a story.
I'll give you one. I was an expert witness about 2 weeks ago on a Zoom lawsuit of a divorce.
Oh, boy.
So one party wanted to sell the property at appraised value, but they also wanted to buy the house. The other side says, let's put it on the open market and see what we can get. So one party who wanted to sell it for appraised value, who wanted the property, knew that the value of the property is greater than the appraised value.
Sure.
But wanted just to do a simple appraisal. So through the court, my job as an expert witness to explain the difference between an appraised value and market value. So
I saw your hand go up when you said market value.
Currently, yes. That this right now, you have your appraised value and your market value is greater, and that was the discussion. My input for the judge in that scenario itself.
So, energized by what's going on with the marketplace and this convention, what is there anything new that you're going to do with your buyers or your sellers over the coming months?
As far as marketing, continue to get them exposure, continue to do what I do best. I think it's all about fine tuning, and I think get re-energized at any sort of convention. The idea is motivation and just get going and do what you do best. And I'll continue to do that.
So you not only are the broker of Remax Advanced Realty, but you also are affiliated with a number of lenders that are helping all of our agents at the office. What are you hearing from them? Because it literally does change day to day, but what is today's status with their rates and their expectations of rates over the next couple of months?
Okay, so it's not just them. In general, rates are expected to rise at least 4 times, I'm hearing now, in the next year or so. So it may be slight increments, but it's definitely a raise. So, and it does make a difference. It's not that great of a difference, but if you're thinking about buying a home today, or you say, oh, I'll buy a home in a year from now, my opinion would be is not only will the price of the house be greater a year from now, but also potentially the interest rate would be higher.
All right, let's take a pause there.
Pause.
Because I look at logic. maybe we're not in a logical market. If the buying power of the buyers is diminished as the interest rates go up,
yes,
how can the prices continue to go up when, for example, later this month, it's fully expected that a 0.5% increase in interest rates will occur. So somebody's losing buying power. The buyers are. Now, is it all simply because there's that much cash in the marketplace, the prices will continue to rise? Or is there something that I don't understand in the logic spectrum?
So when we talk about prices rising, that doesn't mean it's going to increase 30%, Hal. So, instead of 30%, it could be, 5%. We don't have that crystal ball.
Could it potentially, you really don't think it's going to flatten out or go down a couple of percentage points?
I'll give you flatten out, but I'm not going to give you going down the pricing. No, I think that the difference between 3.5 and 4 sounds a lot, but realistically, it's not that much. When you go from 3.5 to 6.5, yes. Or for those who've sold real estate back in the day, interest rates were 17, 18%. For a lot of you guys may not have been around at that point. I was. That is a huge difference. I don't ever see that ever happening again, but it was the fact and the case for me when I first got in the real estate business.
So what's going on right now? How many listings do you typically have at any given time? And where are you now?
Okay. So me personally.
Well, you and your team.
Me and my team. Yeah. Historically, I mean, year after year, I would have 10, 15.
At any given time?
Oh, at any given time. Yes.
And now?
3, 4.
Okay. So you've seen a 66% approximately reduction in the number of active listings that you have.
No. It's the same amount of homes. It's just the time period on the market is less. Okay. So I actually sold more homes last year than I've ever sold before. But it's the time period on the market. So when people talk about how the market there's no inventory, there is inventory. We actually had over 6.1
turning so quick.
It's a turnover is that much faster. So you have to be ready to go. So any buyer out there who's thinking about buying, they got to get qualified immediately before they even go look at a house.
Oh, for sure.
But some folks out there may think, oh, I'll look at some houses. If I like what I see, then I'll go get qualified.
So I'm going to look at the camera. You do the same.
Okay. Oh.
If you're a buyer, do not hurt yourself by going in with the wrong expectation about how to approach this market. It is extremely critical that not only are you pre-approved, but that you can somehow prove that you've got proof of funds, extra money that could head toward the purchase of a home before you will go out and see anything. Because literally, if you do find something nice, you should have an offer in within the hour after you walk out of that house.
Right.
It's happening that quickly. It's not like, we'll think about it overnight and it'll be gone tomorrow. It just simply will, correct?
It'll be gone. So even if you really want to think about it, I would suggest making an offer, because in most contracts, you have the right of inspection, which also gives you the right to withdraw from the contract. It's not what I would tell everyone, but just you guys who are watching today.
Let's go over that clause, because I'm glad you gave us that little secret.
Yeah.
The contract is something that you should be incredibly aware of, and all the details. Now, if you don't want to read it and understand it, work with your agent who does.
Yes.
And so one of the phrases is about the inspection contingency. This is a period of time which is defined by the buyer and seller. It could be up to 15 days. Nowadays, it's typically around 7.
Correct.
And maybe even less in certain situations. And what does that clause tell you during that specified time period?
Well, depending on which contract, but the one that's typically used, it gives the buyer the right to do inspections. And if it's an as-is sale, and for any reason the buyer wants to get out, they don't like the chip tile that they didn't see at the beginning, they can get out of the contract and go get all their money back and go on their merry way.
So that's really important for people to understand as sellers too.
Yes.
Because a lot of the time you will get offers that look tremendous. And if you have not scrutinized who that buyer is and the motivation behind them and their agent and how well they're going to work their buyer through the contract, you could be signing yourself into 60 days of pain with no payoff.
Well, that's why that 7 days they can get out and go away. But you, Hal, will already have a backup offer for that seller.
That's true. And I have a recent example of that.
Yeah.
The same house that had over 100 people in the open
Sure.
house, I got a backup. People thought I was crazy. Why did you go do that?
Yeah.
Why? Because you should always have a plan
Sure.
B in real estate. And unfortunately, the main buyer disappeared within the first couple of days. So we are at the backup.
Beautiful.
And thankfully, that backup is more solid and has been a pleasure to work with that agent. So, things work out if you plan for them.
Well, right? That's the difference between just a regular agent and a competent one. So
thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions out there? Now's the time to get them in there. We've got about 4 minutes left on the show. And first of all, let me just give you open forum at this point. Anything that you think the general public should be aware of in a market like this today?
I think like anything else, have fun. There's stress involved, but I think when you do it as a team, as you mentioned earlier, I think it makes it a lot more easy to some extent that you're really going in together and doing this. So I think that if a house isn't exactly perfect, no house is perfect. And that's something that people don't realize. They're looking for that perfect square with vaulted ceilings, or, you know what, if you find something that makes you happy when you walk in the door, that's it. That's the house. So if it doesn't have the exact exposure or doesn't have skylights, you could put in skylights. If you don't like the color paint, you can paint it. So you have to go in and feel good. If you feel good when you walk in, make an offer on that house in today's market. All
right. I'm going to give you, since you gave a great secret about the contract, I'll give my speech, which most people don't hear unless they're working with me as a buyer.
Oh, I'm looking forward to this.
So typically the first time you go out with a buyer, you see more than one home in a day. Mm-hmm. So I first really came up with this formula to make sure that as we go through 4 or 5 homes in a day, that they can keep track of things.
Right.
So I don't tell them anything until we walk out of the first home. And I say, hey, we're going to take a pause before we go to house number 2. I want you to grade this house. You're a teacher. And that job has nothing to do with the price of the home. I simply want you to grade the home based on how it fits your lifestyle mm-hmm. and how you felt, as you said, when you walked through the door. That's it. And so they'll give me a grade. And I said, also, some feature of the house, something that's going to make you, a phrase that's going to make you remember this house versus any other. And so somebody might say, we just walked into the house, brick exposed wall and kitchen. Fine. Now the house will come back to them with seeing that phrase on the piece of paper. We go through all the homes. Let's say it's 5 of them. When we walk out of the 5th home, I do the same routine, and I look at all the pieces of paper. And if there's not an A written on any one of those pieces of paper, I take the pieces of paper right in front of them and rip it up. And they freak out. What did you do that for? I said, these are not A homes. Do you want to live in a B home? And they say, no. I say, great. Now we have our motivation for everything else we're going to do.
Right.
Our job is to find you an A home. If we find you an A home, you go after it with everything you got. This is the game you want to be in. Go for it with absolutely every ounce of your energy. If you lose it, there's another one. But you never give up on an A thinking there's an A+ around the corner.
Right.
And that's the way to do real estate. At least that's what I teach my buyers.
So, I like it.
Gave you guys a little something extra today. Hopefully that motivates you. There's a lot of motivation in this market. There's a lot of money in this market. So if you're a seller, get in touch with me or get in touch with Anthony. Either one of us, we'd be happy to talk to you about the right way to approach the market. And frankly, both of us are starving for listings, okay? Because we sell them quick and we do it the right way. And we would love to help you. Anthony, why don't you give them your phone number or some way to reach you?
Oh, please. You're welcome to call me if you have additional questions at 305-807-9079. Send me an email at anthony@askowitz.com. That's Anthony at askowitz.com.
He even spelled it. And I am Hal Feldman, 786-693-2005. And I am Hal at MiamiHal.com. Anthony, thanks so much for coming in. We love those few questions that came in. We'll keep monitoring this particular file. If you have other questions over the next couple of weeks, we certainly will get back to you on an individual basis. And every week we do this. Oh. Why do I do it, Anthony? Tell me why I do this every week for our community.
You're a good guy, Hal.
Well, besides being a good guy, it is about being part of the community.
Yeah.
I know you are. This is my contribution to the community. Miami Community Newspapers, I thank you for the studios and the time and the personnel here. Everybody's had a great week. You have a great week going forward, and we'll see you next week on the MiamiHal Real Estate Show.